Hello, everybody. We are Quality Recap. We are bringing to you guys the highest quality in recap manga. Stay tuned for the next video.
Long ago, there was a man who had piled up thousands of bodies, ruling over the continent with his eyes cold like ice. People called him the Cold-Hearted Emperor. Back to the present, inside the house of a nobleman, we can hear him talking to his daughter. Juliana, the family you'll marry has been decided. And before the confused reaction the daughter had, the nobleman continued, Your partner will be Marquis Haugen. Hearing this, Juliana's face darkened in fear. The father explained that the Marquis was particularly fond of her looks and was willing to pay quite the sum. Seeing her hesitation, the father noted, of course, I don't mind if you refuse. I want to respect my daughter's will. However, in the case that you should refuse, I will have to ask you to leave that necklace. Hearing this, Juliana stumbled to her knees. The necklace was proof of her noble status. Basically, to be rid of it was to be cut off from the family and live as a commoner. Her father was using it to threaten her. Facing this threat, Juliana trembled in fear, as if there's nothing she could do but listen to her father. Suddenly, an invisible magical presence fell from the sky, entering her body, and in an instant she could see memories from the past, memories of someone that wasn't her. Looking at the figure in the memories, she recognized that person. It was none other than the cold-hearted emperor Julius Melville. And through some magical incident, he now resided inside Juliana's body, taking control of her. Julius awakened in her body. He thought that he would go to hell after he died, but through some strokes of fate he was reborn in this form. He then looked to the father, who was asking if Juliana would choose to get married or be banished. Looking at him, Julius said, Then, before he ripped out the necklace and threw it in the father's head, the impact ripped open a wound and blood spilled out. And before the shocked expression of the house's servant, Julius smiled and declared that he would gladly turn down the offer and leave the family for good. The father, still confused, was shocked by the blood from his head. Looking at him, Julius noted that he and Juliana's body still hadn't harmonized, so he couldn't fully control his power. He then walked away. The father tried to call him back, but Julius just stared back at him with a cold gaze, saying he had no further business with them anymore. The butler trying to hold the father up, he looked at Juliana's back walking away, amazed by her sudden transformation. While walking, Julius noted that the discomfort with his body was the current problem. He had always been on the battlefield, and making use of everything he had was how he could survive, and this time it was no different. He just had to work with what he got. Holding on his hand, he noted that though weaker, he was still able to use her magic core to use body strengthening, and that it would be worth training. Just then, the butler managed to catch up with him, which surprised Julius. He was about to turn away, but through Juliana's memories, it seemed that those servants once supported Juliana and loved her dearly. Seeing this, Julius turned to the butler. He assured him that there was no need to be worried, and that the Juliana in front of him was no longer a powerless child that needed to be protected. Standing in front of him, he declared his gratitude. I am in your debt. I shall not forget your loyalty. Once things have settled down, come and see me. Until then, stay healthy, he said with a gentle smile. Looking at the gentle expression that Juliana once carried back when she was still happy and carefree, the butler understood that this was the best way for her. He accepted it and wished her a safe journey. Outside the mansion, two adventurers were passing by when they were met with a young girl riding a horse, dashing away at immense speed. It was Julius in Juliana's body.
Looking at him passing by in a blink of an eye, they couldn't believe in their eyes. What's that? After a while on the horse, Julius called out to Juliana. You're there? Who are you? Me? The way you say that, you're like the emperor from the fairy tales, Juliana said. Julius heard this, he complimented her sharp intuition. He then reintroduced. My name is Julie. Let's live with that name. Like Julie One-chan? Huh, One-chan. Well, I don't mind about that. Juliana then asked Julie what happened, to which he answered how it seemed after he died he somehow came to reside in her body, and he only managed to recall his memories just now. He apologized for taking her body, but she said that she didn't mind. After all, if it wasn't because of him, she would have been married to Haugen. Though she had met Haugen before, it seemed she didn't really like him. Hearing this, Julie reassured her, saying he would protect her from then on. Even if there were monster attacks, even if it was against another human, no matter what, he would make all her wishes come true. He said that there was nothing she should worry about, so they should get along. Hearing this, Juliana hesitated for a bit, but she steeled her resolve. Okay, I'll be in your care, Julie One-chan. What are we going to do now? First, we'll be heading to the city of Cartus. Hearing this, Juliana asked if he knew about the city. It turned out he said he saw it from her memories, which shocked Juliana. You can see my memories? Yeah, I also know the stuffed bear you go to sleep hugging every night quite well. Huh, One-chan, do you even know Pusuke? I didn't know his name, though. Ah, you're making fun of me, Juliana scoffed, to which Julie just laughed loudly. He then assured her that it wasn't like he could know everything, and that he trusted her and looked forward to being dependent on her. Hearing this, Juliana gladly accepts. After the chat, Julie noted that aside from that, the world seemed to have become quite peaceful compared to the age that he lived in. Now, with him being released from the position of emperor and Juliana released from her father's restraints, he wondered what will be waiting for them ahead. He then looked to the sky, saying it wouldn't be so bad to try out that thing known as freedom, but he quickly let out a menacing grin, saying that he would cut down everything that got in his way, like in his past life. Juliana, looking at it, she was also uncertain about the freedom, a world she never got to know. But Julie quickly assured her. He told to take a look of the outside world, saying that it would be a lot of fun, to which Juliana finally accepted and took his hand, saying that maybe he was right, it seemed fun. They then continued on with their journey, sharing time with each other. They chatted, teached each other about the world, trying out fruits, and just adore the beautiful view of nature. While doing so, Julie noted to himself that back then, he never had the chance to teach somebody what different things were, and this was the first time. Suddenly, he noticed something in the sky. It was a wyvern, a lesser species of dragon. Juliana heard this, she was scared, and asked Julie to get away quickly. But Julie noted that the wyvern was heading toward their destination, Cartus City, and that he couldn't allow it. Juliana was shocked. She tried to tell Julie that this was different than with father. This time, it was a real giant monster. But Julie immediately used body strengthening. Slamming his feet into the ground, he jumped up above the wyvern with light speed movement, saying, I told you, didn't I? Regardless of whatever it may be, I will protect you. Julie then kicked the dragon to the ground. Once he also landed, he immediately rushed the dragon and started beating it up brutally. Standing up with his hands full of blood, he asked, How about it, Juliana? Is there anything in this world to fear? Looking at this blood sight, Juliana's eyes lit up. Oni-chan, you're really strong. Amazing. Super amazing. I don't know how she looked at that and weren't creeped out at all, bro. That shit was brutal, but okay. Julie heard this and smirked confidently. Well, back in my emperor days, I could have taken down a puny dragon like that with a single finger. At that level, even my underlings could have defeated it with a single hand. Just then, he noticed someone coming and noted that they were strong. Juliana saw this. She tried to ask him what happened, But Julie just smiled and said that from there on, he would show her what happens when the emperor gets serious, and that she should make sure not to blink. Inside the forest, a black horse dashed out. Sitting on it was a man in a black attire. They ran toward Julie before stopping right in front of her. Looking at him, Julie immediately recognized him, and he also recognized him. Looking confused, the man asked, "Your Majesty, Julius?"
Looking at Julie, the man mumbled again, asking himself if the young girl standing in front of him was in fact Julius. He then immediately hopped down the horse and kneeled before her. "It's been so long, Your Majesty." "You're Claudius?" "Now I just go by Claude." Looking at him, Julie said, "You haven't changed at all." Claude responded, "And you've changed greatly." Julie then explained the situation, saying he is now the daughter of the Silvius counter, Juliana, but he can call her Julie. Juliana asked Julie who the man was. Turned out, Claudius was his old comrade, one who always stood right behind the emperor. He then assured Juliana, saying that Claude was an old acquaintance of his, and he was confident that there was no way this man would become his enemy. Julie then tried to ask Claude to report the situation, but they were quickly interrupted by two other people coming toward them. One of them, a woman with a ponytail, called out, "Claude, are you okay?" "Adelina, what happened to that wyvern?" Looking at the wyvern, it was already dead, but Adelina questioned the way it was killed wasn't normal. Just then, Claude stepped in, saying that he killed it, covering for Julie. Hearing this, Adelina tried to argue, saying no matter how you look at it, there were no wounds caused by a sword, but Claude just kept insisting that he killed it. Adelina had no choice but to reluctantly accept the claim, but she then asked for an explanation about Julie. Claude then said that she was just some noble's daughter and saying that he would take care of her, but Adelina didn't accept this vague explanation. She tried to ask for more about why there just happened to be a noble lady here and why she was covered in wyvern's blood. But she was quickly silenced by a chilling smile from Julie, which startled her. Claude, not wasting any more time, he took Julie's hand and let her sit on his horse. Looking at Adelina, he said, "This is the sole person I've sworn my loyalty to. Do you need any more explanation than that?" He then dashed away with Julie, saying he would leave the cleanup to them. Everyone was left confused. Looking at him running away, Adelina scoffed, "That's not an explanation at all, you idiot." After a while, they had already arrived at the destination. Claude woke Julie up, to which she was as if she fell asleep on the way. Julie then checked up on Juliana inside her, making sure that she was fine and was still sleeping. Looking at the mansion Claude prepared, Julie said, "You have good taste. I like to keep it plain." "Well, I prepared it to your taste, Your Grace." "Did you know that I would be in this era?" "No, but, Your Grace, if I aren't here, then there's no reason for me to be here. I prepared so I would be able to greet you perfectly whenever." What a loyal guy.
Looking at him, Julie smiled. "Then you must have a change of clothes for me." "Of course, I have both men's and women's clothing. Which would you prefer?" Julie was shocked at how well prepared he was. "I figured you would have some, but your lineup is way too good. There's no way I could inconvenience you, Your Grace. You really haven't changed at all." Julie then looked at the wardrobe. "Let's see, since I have this body, I don't mind using women's clothing." Claude looked at her. He said that he would wait outside, but Julie said she didn't mind. Rather, she wanted him to help with her changing, which caught Claude off. He tried to refuse, but he was met with a menacing look from Julie, and he just desperately accepted to help her. After they got done changing, Julie asked for a drink. She asked if Claude still remembered her favorite drink, to which he confirmed. He then brought out a bottle of wine and started filling up her glass. Julie looked at the glass of wine. Then she looked at Claude. She asked, "Come on, what are you doing standing there?" "Huh? Bring over a glass for yourself." Turned out she wanted to share the drink with him. She then tried to pour him a glass of wine herself, but it was difficult to her since she still hadn't gotten used to the new body yet. She scoffed, "Sorry for spilling so much. This body is a pain. A bottle of wine feels heavier than my longsword did in my past life. But, well, it's not so bad." Holding her glass to Claude, she said, "Cheers to a new life," and they began sharing their time drinking together. While doing so, she asked, "But really, you have quite the collection here. What were you planning on doing if I didn't appear?" "I would have kept waiting. You had no guarantee that we would meet." "Well, there's no way I could fail to notice your Grace's magic core. But yes, if I still failed to find you, then I would reincarnate again and I would wait for you in the next life." Hearing this, Julie smiled, saying he was a loyal one. She then told Claude to call her Julie from now on, and that she wouldn't say it again. Hearing this, Claude remembered her words, saying cheers to a new life. He understood that the Julius in front of him was no longer the emperor, and he too had to start this new life fresh. And with his steeled resolve, he answered her order. "I apologize, Lady Julie." Julie then smiled. She asked if he could drop the formalities toward her altogether, but he quickly shook his head in refusal. He then asked Julie what she would like to do, and if she would like to take over the continent again, he would gladly serve as her right hand. Julie laughed, joking that it didn't sound so bad. But having saw the world today, she realized that both of them still didn't know what it is to be free. She then recalled their past. "When my dad, the late emperor, died, I was only 12 years old. After the succession battle with your siblings, there was a civil war. After that, there was a war with the neighboring country. And just when I thought I had conquered the continent, next came the war with demons. We didn't have a single moment to breathe, did we? If I had stopped, we would have been killed." Claude tried to assure her, "Lady Julie, you protected the common folk's safety." But Julie said that while she protected them, she lived without knowing how they felt. That's why, in this life, she wanted to try living for herself. If she did that, maybe she would be able to learn whether all that fighting to protect the people in her past life really had any value. Standing before Claude, she declared, "I want to enjoy this life as just another person with you by my side. If you would serve me in this life as well, then stay with me for a while." Hearing this, Claude kneeled down to her. "Then I shall give my all to serve you," he said as they exchanged their smiles, ready for the new journey ahead. The next morning came. Julie woke up. She asked Claude if she could wash off this sweat, to which Claude suggested taking a shower. But hearing this, Julie was confused. Turned out, back then in their past life, they didn't have convenient magic tools like the showerhead and had to wash more manually. Claude also noted that there were other various tools that had become popular as well. While taking a shower, Julie asked how much Claude remembered from his past life, to which he answered that it was all vague. Both she and Claude had no memory of each other's death, which means both of them were reborn while they were still alive. Julie then asked if Claude remembered the Demon Lord, to which he answered that he could remember up until right before the very last battle, but after that there was nothing, which was similar to Julie's memory. She couldn't remember the Demon Lord's face, name, or who else was there. She then decided not to waste too much time overthinking it. "Well, thinking about it now won't help. I'm coming out." "I'm leaving your change of clothes here," Claude said. Julie was about to get changed, but she couldn't seem to find the underwear, so she just walked out to the front, asking Claude where he put the clothes at. But Claude saw her walk out and immediately panicked, saying she shouldn't come like that. Just like that, a young woman opened the door and walked in. "Good morning." The young woman in the maid outfit walked in on Claude just to see a young girl holding cloth standing in front of him. "Bro, this make me uncomfortable as fuck." The woman then screamed and she hugged Julie tightly and said, "To bring back such a small child, Claude, you pervert. I didn't think you were that type of person." She kept screaming at him, not letting him explain the situation. While Julie was hugging tightly, she thought to herself, "There are a lot of things that I don't understand, first among which would be whatever is happening right now," she thought, as Claude was still trying to explain the situation, while the woman kept screaming at him, telling him not to get any closer. After a while, when they finally resolved the misunderstanding, the maid hurriedly bowed her head, apologizing to Julie and Claude, to which Julie said that she was happy the situation was resolved, while Claude scoffed that she was the one who kept playing along with the misunderstanding, making it worse. They then got to introduce each other, where the maid introduced that she was Michelle, the live-out maid of their house. Claude also confirmed that despite her personality, as shown earlier, her skills were top-notch. Julie heard this. She was impressed at the well-preparedness. She then called out to Michelle. Leaning close to Michelle, she asked, "Teach me how to do housework." This unusual request confused Michelle. Julie then explained that she was hiding out because of family feuds, and that it would be a good time for her to learn how to live by herself. Hearing this, Michelle broke into tears. She hugged Julie tightly. "Wow, you're amazing, Julie-chan. Big Sis will teach you anything." They then began on their housework training. "So, first let's learn how to do shopping. The place I'm going to isn't a particularly dangerous place, but are you really sure you don't need a hood?" Julie heard this. She said, No need for it." Still, Michelle noted that she would have felt more reassured if Claude came with them. They then walked into a bustling market. Julie looked at the lively crowd and said, Wow, this place is buzzing." "Don't get lost, okay?" Michelle reminded her. "First up, vegetables." And while Michelle was greeting the shopkeepers, Julie looked at the fresh vegetables. Just then, Juliana popped out. "Wow, amazing." "Oh, you're awake?" "Yeah, because it's become so lively and fun." Juliana complimented on the vegetables' beauty, comparing them to jewels, to which Julie smiled, saying these things were far more valuable than jewels. The shopkeeper looked at them. She complimented how cute Julie was, to which Michelle explained that she was with her due to some circumstance, but the shopkeeper assured them, saying she wouldn't pry into their business. She then pat Julie's head, putting some extra veggies in for them. She wished them the best. Julie looked at her and calmly said, I am grateful." But Michelle insisted that it wasn't enough, and that when people were kind to her, she should thank them with a smile on her face. Julie heard this. She then tried smiling. "Like this?" But the shopkeeper and Michelle looked at her smile, and both of them were uncomfortable. Looks like it'll take some practice." After shopping, they returned home. On the way, they spent time walking, chatting with each other. "I bought it and won a prize." Michelle said, "Everyone at the market was so fascinated by Julie-chan. It took quite a long time, didn't it?" To which Julie replied, "I've practiced smiling so much that my cheeks hurt." "When we get back, I'll teach you how to cook, too." "I'm looking forward to it. The breakfast Michelle made was absolutely delicious." Just then, Julie noticed something. Behind them, after a building, there were people following them. Julie quickly called out to Michelle. She mentioned if Michelle forgot to buy something, to which Michelle, after a moment of reconsidering the groceries, realized she forgot to buy sausage. Michelle said she was a bit tired, so she would wait there for her to go buy them. To which Michelle hesitated a bit, but then she accepted and ran to buy sausage, telling Julie she would be back soon. After Michelle departed, Julie sat there and waited. Just as she did so, a group of some suspicious men appeared. "Hey, little missy, it's dangerous to be here alone, you know. These older brothers will take you to a safe place." Internally, they thought to themselves, "You don't find gems like this every day. If you could just sell it to some pig who'll buy everything, you'd make a fortune." But it seems Julie was fully expecting this. "Just as I expected," she said as she dashed behind one of them with unmatched speed. The bad guy didn't even get to realize what just happened, as she kicked him in the back of the head, taking him out instantly. Before his friends could understand what just happened, she got behind another one and took him down in one single strike, taking out 2 guys in seconds. The third guy saw this. He panicked and tried to run away, but Julie quickly caught up to him and tripped him down. And while he was still on the ground trying to get up, she got close to him. Putting her hands on his neck, she said, "Did you know, if only I could grasp the flow of blood, even a weak girl could kill someone with the tip of her finger?" The man heard this. He thought his life was about to end there, but Julie stopped midway and said, "I want to revel in freedom. Hiding my face every time I walk around town just isn't my style. Pass this on to your comrades, too. What happens if you get involved? Use that head of yours to think properly," she said, as she let them go, warning them. Looking at their pathetic figures running away, Julie sighed and noted how only at times like this were she able to smile naturally. But Juliana quickly popped up and said, Julie probably wouldn't get any free gifts with that kind of smile. Julie heard this and looked uncomfortable. She couldn't argue back. Just then, Michelle came back.
They walked home together and got ready for the meal. A while later, we could see Claude sitting in front of a nicely prepared feast. Looking at the food, he was amazed. "Lady Julie, handmade dishes?"
Julie said that all she did was just cut potatoes, but Michelle assured her that it was fine since she did it so well. Michelle couldn't believe it was her first time, which is making her lose confidence. They then had their meal together, spending time eating and chatting. After the meal, Michelle said farewell to them to go home, saying she would be back tomorrow. Claude asked Julie what her day with Michelle had been so far, to which she responded positively, listing out things they've done, from changing the bed sheets to cleaning the room and washing dishes. It was all so new to her. On top of that, Julie was also fascinated by Michelle's way of thinking. Despite having many magic tools to help them with cooking, she didn't use any, and when Julie asked for the reason for it, Michelle said, "Using magic tools might actually be more convenient and faster, but I actually prefer doing it manually. In proportion to the time and effort invested, think of the person who will be eating it," she said with a warm smile on her face. Looking at her, Julie joked, "Like for Claude's sake?" "What?" Michelle was flustered, her face red. She tried to tell Julie that it wasn't like that and that she made food with genuine care. Looking at her, Julie sighed. Internally, she thought, "In my past life, I said it was all for the people's sake, but in truth, I could hardly imagine what the people even meant. To do something while clearly picturing someone in mind, that was something new." Claude looked at Julie. He smiled gently, happy for her new experience. Just then, Julie made up her mind. "So that's how it is. I'll be going to an orphanage tomorrow." "Huh?" Claude was confused. The next day, when Michelle came to their house, Julie noticed this time she brought someone else there with her. "Huh? Did you get another pet?" Julie said, gesturing at the little girl that Michelle brought, to which Michelle scoffed, saying she wasn't a pet. The little girl then began to introduce herself as Rue. Julie heard this. She thought that the name was quite uncommon. Michelle then explained to them, "That is the child's name. This is Rue. Her full name is Lucifer. When I mentioned to the orphanage where I work part-time that Julie-chan was coming, no matter what I did, she wouldn't listen to me and said she would come along. Would it be all right if you two waited in that room until I finished work?" Julie thought for a moment and decided that it was fine for them to do that since there were no particular problems. Suddenly, Rue jumped behind Julie, hugging her from the back, smiling. "Hey, big sis!" But unexpectedly, Julie's expressions were rather startling. Claude noticed this. He tried to call out to her, but she stopped him. Looking at Rue, she thought, "This little girl, how dare she take my back?" Just then, Juliana popped out. Looking at the kid, she said, "Wow, this kid is so adorable." "Hmm?" Rue looked at Julie. Her eyes then diverted to beside her, where Juliana's spirit was, and called out to the both of them, signaling that she could clearly see Juliana's spirit. Julie was shocked. She could feel something off about Rue by the way she stared at her. Claude also sensed something unusual. He put his hand on his sword, but Julie quickly stopped him. Looking at Rue, Juliana asked, "Can this little kid notice me?" "One-chan, I understand you." "Wow, you answered me." Julie stared at the Rue. She thought to herself, "It's still an infant whose demon core hasn't even awakened yet." It seemed Rue was some kind of unawakened demon. There should be no immediate danger since Juliana is happy about it too. Interesting. Observe for a while. Don't you dare interfere, Claude. As you wish. They then went on with their day, with Rue accompanied them. Michelle expressed that Julie was surprisingly good at looking after people, to which Julie thought that it was just because Juliana wanted her to do so. But in return, she got to see a pretty funny face from Claude, looking at His Majesty who was feeding a demon. After a while, they finally arrived at the orphanage gate. Julie looked at the building. She was impressed at the exterior, to which Michelle explained that that was because the orphanage received support from the local lord, Viscount Curtis. Julie heard this and was impressed, thinking the lord seemed to be quite an upright person. Julie then asked how many children there were, to which Michelle answered with 134 people in total, though the capacity was 150, and anyone beyond that would have to go to another orphanage, saying that it was a rule created by the founder. Julie heard this and immediately understood the motive behind that rule. That person is wise. When a large group of people act together, that number represents the maximum number of people whose relationships can be understood. An organization where members know each other and are aware of their own roles. That was how the squadron of the Imperial Army was in my past life, she thought to herself. She then asked Michelle if the name of the founder was made public. Michelle thought for a moment, then said that her name was Elphiria. Julie immediately recognized that name. Elphiria, with compassion for the sake of the people, the woman who staked her life. It was compensating for the places where my hand couldn't reach. I never imagined I'd hear that name here. I see, so this is how her feelings were passed down, she thought as she looked at the orphanage kids who were happy, playing, and spending time with each other. Just then, she noticed someone from afar. It was Adeline, the woman who investigated the wyvern with Claude from before. She was training. Huh? Do you know them? Michelle asked. To which Julie replied, I only know their name and face. We are not acquaintances. She's an A-rank adventurer, you know. Huh? Rank indicates an adventurer's strength. Claude is also an A-rank adventurer. Michelle explained that Adeline also grew up in the orphanage and sometimes comes to teach kids. Just then, Adeline noticed them. Oh, Lucifer and Michelle? Moreover, the young lady from the other day. Julie just smiled and said, You really helped me out back then. To which Adeline said that she didn't do anything to help. Just then, she recalled Julie's chilling smile from back then. She then pointed her wooden sword at Julie. Well, I suppose so. I guess meeting you here was fate after all. How about it? Let's have a sparring match. Standing amidst the training ground, with Adeline's sword pointed to her face asking for a sparring match, Julie stared at the sword. Around her were the sounds of swords clashing at each other from other kids. She mumbled, Yeah, that's right. Just then, one of the kids' sword got flung out as their hand, flying straight toward Julie. Adeline noticed this. She tried to deflect the sword, but she was quickly stopped by Julie. And just as she's still confused, the sword flew right past Julie's face, narrowly missing her, but Julie didn't faze one bit. Why did you stop me? Adeline asked. Because there's no need to avoid what won't hit you, Julie answered, which shocked Adeline. It showed that Julie was several levels above her. Julie then mentioned about the sparring offer from earlier, but she decided to pass. Huh. Adeline was confused, but she was somewhat relieved and quickly bid farewell to them. Just then, Michelle and Rue jumped into her, saying they thought she would get hurt. Julie stayed silent. Internally, she thought that though she was the type that would accept these kinds of challenges, after what was shown earlier, she had already assessed that even though Claude was way stronger than her, let alone Julie. Michelle saw Julie being silent. She tried to call out for her, to which Julie finally responded, saying she was lost in thought. They then finally took a look at the life inside the orphanage. The place was warm and welcoming, with everyone living and helping each other, doing what they were able to do for everyone's benefit. That was the place where Michelle managed to learn a lot of things. Julie heard this. She mused. Looking at Michelle, she asked her to begin teaching her. After a while, when they were cooking meals, some boys walked in. Their clothes were all dirty, but they were chatting to each other, not minding the clothes at all. It seems they just came back from working. One of them called out to Michelle, Michelle, I'm back. Welcome back, Ars, Michelle said. Welcome back, everyone. The boy then continued to show her what they had gotten that day. Work went really well today, you know. I made a ton of money. Michelle smiled gently and patted his head. Oh, you've done a good job. That's amazing. To which Ars was flustered. He scoffed that she shouldn't treat him like a child. Looking at them, Julie immediately noticed the kind of feeling Ars had for Michelle, but it seemed Michelle hadn't noticed a thing. Julie thought to herself that Ars still got a long way to go, but she wished him good luck. Just then, Ars finally noticed Julie. He leaned closely and asked intimidatingly, Who the hell are you? But Michelle quickly hit him in the head, blaming him. You can't say that. This is Julie-chan. She came here today to help out at the orphanage. Help out? Just then, Julie got close to Ars, too close. She asked again, Ars, was it? Why, get the hell out of here, you filthy noble. Ars was flustered, but Julie didn't mind. She asked if Ars and his friend had been working out in the field, to which Ars said it was right and that they worked as adventurers. Hearing this, Julie mused. She asked, Are you really fighting Demon Beast at your age? What? There's no way I can fight a Demon Beast yet. Being an adventurer isn't just about fighting monsters. There are all kinds of jobs out there. For example, and then he began to tell her what it was like being an adventurer. And as a result, the next day, Claude finds himself at the gate of the Adventurers Guild, bringing Julie along with him. Looking at the guild house, Julie said that it was pretty extravagant. Throwing back to the night before that, Julie asked Claude, saying she wanted to become an adventurer. It seemed Ars's story piqued his interest about adventurer life. Julie then continued, "This new life is for myself, my resolve to live in order to understand the people's feelings. I went to the orphanage today and learned something new. You see, even as young orphans, they worked to eat. Then I too wish to know that feeling, so that's why I'm going to become an adventurer." Looking at her, Claude thought to himself, "There's seriously no need to act like you're such a big shot." But he just kept it to himself and responded, "Yes, sir." But it seemed Julie had already noticed his expression and said that he was surprisingly good at hiding it. Putting her hand onto Claude's head, she reassured him, saying she would treat him to something delicious once she started making money. Back to the present, while Claude went to prepare the paperwork, Julie waited for him. She got to take a look around the guild and saw many different kinds of adventurers. It feels like the start before a victorious battle begins. But unlike back then, few will lose their lives today. Fewer people will die by someone today. To put it simply, lame. Just then, some lowly male adventurers started approaching her. "What's this? This isn't the kind of place where pretty girls come, you know? With a face like that, you'd make way more money displayed in a showcase." Julie didn't faze. She looked at them and thought to herself, "This demon core is too weak. Everyone's demon core here is weak. The adventurers in this country are nothing but grunts. Have we become complacent in times of peace because the war has stopped?" So this is the narrator. And about the earlier chapter where we talked about Rue, I think I mistaken her for a demon since they referred to her magic core as demon core. But it seems this demon core term is used for every other adventuress too, so it's probably something that humans in this world has. So Rue may not be a demon, but just some human with unmatched potential that both Julie and Claude were wary about.
Editor here. Bro, stop yapping. Nobody listening this far.
Back to the story. The male adventurers who were trying to talk to her got ignored. He got mad and tried to put his hand on Julie, but he was quickly stopped by someone else. It was Adeline. The grunts saw her. They were all scared. That's Adeline. It seems she was a well-known and feared adventurer in the guild. She then looked at them with an intimidating gaze. "You guys better quit it if you don't want to die by accident." The grunts saw this, panicked, and ran away, leaving the two of them. Julie asked Adeline, "Was it necessary for you to shield me?" To which Adeline said, "What a joke. The ones I covered for were those drunk bastards." Then it can't be helped. It seems Adeline just stopped those guys from getting whooped by Julie. Well, as an adventurer, I suppose I should save face for my senior. That would be really helpful. She then bid farewell to Julie, heading off. Julie sighed. "That's how it is. So, put that murderous intent away, Claude." Turns out, Claude had already gotten ready to kill all of those guys. "Let's go after them and finish them off." Cut it out. After Claude had gotten done with the paperwork, he told her to select a request that she wished to accept from the bulletin board. Julie smiled. "Now then, what should I do for my first job?" The scene transitioned to a noble house. Inside a bedroom, a young man was sitting next to his dying lord. "My lord!" But the lord was weak and exhausted. He could utter only a few words. "Sorry, Roland. Curtis's house. This territory. I'm counting on you." The young man grinded his teeth in tears. "My lord!" He then steeled his resolve. Getting up, he ordered the house servants to send an urgent request to the Adventurers Guild. As he said so, the scene transitioned to Claude and Julie looking at the bulletin board, signaling a new arc coming.
Back to the past, we could see Julius, the past self of Julie, was in the middle of a fight. With an intense look on his face, he sliced down enemies till there's no one left. Standing in front of a mountain of corpses, Claude went up to him and said, "Your Majesty, I have come bearing some news." "Tell me." "The enemy forces have been routed." "What are our casualties?" "Sir, the death toll was about 200, and only some minor injuries. This is a complete victory for our forces." Hearing the victorious news, Julius's face did not lighten up at all. He kept a somber look on his face and asked, "Oh, I see. What of the Willard squad?" "Captain Willard and all his men, all 113 members, fought valiantly and without fear. They devoted themselves to their duties until the very end." Facing the news of his comrade passing away, Julius just stared at Claude. Then he turned around and said indifferently, "You've done well. You may go now." "Yes, sir," Claude answered, but a split moment later, Julius noticed his hand. He was clenching his fist so hard, blood started dripping. Back to the present, we see Julie, who was excited, wondering which request she should choose for her first adventurer work. Claude told her, "At your rank, Julie-sama, these would be appropriate." It's just errands around town after all." "Well, if you're with me, you can take on higher level requests, but nah, I don't need it. It's only fun because I'm doing it all myself from scratch." Just then, Julie's eyes met with a request. She mumbled, I suppose I'll take this one." She then took the request paper and let Claude look at it, to which he put a stern look on his face. "I wonder what the request is." "Got any objection?" Julie asked. "No, it's just, why did you choose that one?" "Why? It was the request that seemed furthest away from Emperor's duties." Holding out the request paper, it was a B-rank request for gutter cleaning. Claude was worried. "Well, it's true that gutter cleaning is about as far as you can get from an Emperor's work, but it's a tremendous task for your Highness's health." "Is it difficult?" "Yes, it's heavy labor that requires a lot of muscle." But Julie didn't seem to mind. She turned back to Claude, asking him, "Tell me, Claude, could there be a job more difficult than one where a single nod could cause the death of many?" Looking at her, Claude thought to himself, "This person may be called cold-hearted, but it doesn't mean they lack emotion. After all, he once walked the path of conquest, driven by an extraordinary passion. However, that's precisely why there were moments when showing emotion was forbidden, just like it was back then." "Claude! Claude!" Just then he noticed Julie calling to him. He was lost in thought. She asked if he was daydreaming. She then told him to hurry up and asked where she could apply for the request. Looking at her smile, Claude recalled how in the past, all he could do was watch the back of Julius. That is why this time he swore not to make Julie bear anything alone, so that she wouldn't lose her composure, yet without becoming cold-hearted, and he would do anything he could if it would make Julie smile. With a steeled resolve, they now together walked the same path to the future.
After a while, we see Julie, covered in dirt, but with shining eyes. She excitedly showed Claude the day's payment. Claude looked at it, saying it was quite a lot, to which Julie said that she didn't need anyone's help. She smiled and asked if he saw how amazing she was. Claude looked at her. He wore a gentle smile on his face, saying, "Yeah, Julie Same is the greatest person in the world." That's right, Julie said proudly. They then began walking home, saying Michelle was at home making dinner and waiting for them. Claude then noticed a bag of vegetables. He asked about it, to which Julie said that the lady at the greengrocer's market gave her some. She then smirked. "I was even treated kindly by a sympathetic official. This body is pretty convenient in that sense." Claude then said that she should learn to say thanks with a smile. "Did you hear that from Michelle?" Julie asked. "Yeah." Who knew it would be so hard to deliberately make such an adorable smile? It was something I never did in my past life, after all. "Well," Claude chuckled, "I suppose you're right," he said as they walked home together under the sunset. The next day came. When Julie was at the guild, she received a request to be a shop assistant for the greengrocer, and it was a request specifically for her. Julie asked if they could really trust a kid with that type of job, but the receptionist reassured her. After all, the one who recommended her were Michelle, their regular customer. Hearing this, Julie happily accepted the job. But when Julie got there, she was rather annoyed. The job I've accepted was supposed to be me only, but Michelle aside, why were the two of you here as well? "Because it looked fun," Rue answered. "I'm an escort," Claude replied. Michelle, looking guilty, she apologized, because the landlady had fallen ill. That was why she recommended Julie, but she was still worried since Julie is still a child after all, and Claude came along as an escort. But Julie scoffed, saying Claude was not needed there at all. She then assigned Claude another mission. That was to take Michelle back to the orphanage. Since the landlady was bedridden, she figured Michelle was also worried about her. That was why it was best for Michelle to come back and take care of the lady. On top of that, it seemed Michelle was also feeling under the weather, and she should get some rest. Holding on to Rue, Julie said that she and Rue would be fine on their own. Rue heard this. She tried to say that she was fine, but Julie quickly called out to Claude, telling him to proceed. Claude heard this. He came up to behind Michelle and picked her up, making her flustered. Then he carried her back to the orphanage, despite her telling him to put her down. Julie then turned to Rue. "Now then, Lucifer." "Yeah? We alone will make this job a huge success. Don't you want to see the look on their faces? Yes, I want to see. Good. I have work for you to do as well. Your task is—" And while they were discussing with each other, from afar, a suspiciously looking man walked past. He put on an ominous smile, ready for something. At Adeline's place, we saw her having trouble with a mission request, saying those types of missions were a pain in the neck and that no one could possibly match the conditions. Just then, her eyes lit up. "No way," she said as she came up with a person that would fit the description, and that was Julie. Back to the market, we can see several customers being intrigued by Julie's store, with Rue and Juliana helped inviting people in. Earlier that day, they already assigned each other's position. Rue would use her lovely appearance to attract customers, while Julie took care of the accounting work. Rue also turned to Juliana, asking her to help with attracting customers. Juliana heard this. She asked if customers could even hear her at all, to which Julie assured her that since Rue could hear her, it should be good enough. Hearing this, Juliana smiled and accepted the offer. After a while, they started bringing in customers. First was a lady who complimented Rue's cuteness. "Oh my, such a young worker." Rue smiled brightly and responded, "Rue likes to help out. Please buy a lot." "Well then, I think I'll take this, this, and this." "Thank you very much," Julie also said. Another customer was a man who seemed to be a familiar person at the market. He asked if Julie was helping out the store, to which she replied, saying the landlady asked her to do it. The man heard this. He asked jokingly if Julie had practiced on her smiling yet. Julie looked uncomfortable. She didn't really practice on it. She asked, "Want to take a look?" I think I'll pass," the man said. "I'll buy some vegetables instead," the man said, and began choosing groceries, to which Rue was happy. She ran around, circling him, thanking her for buying. The man said, "Give me a bag full of tomatoes, please." "Hold on a second, they're in the back," Julie said, turning around to get the tomatoes. But just as she did so, she suddenly turned back to the man and other customers, and then, with an intimidating look on her face, she said, "Don't move." Walking toward one of the customers, she asked, "What did you take?" To which the guy, hearing this, broke down in a cold sweat. Julie then asked the old man to check the guy's pocket. He did so and immediately shouted, "Ha! You bastard! This street thief wanted to steal some vegetables!" "What the hell? Don't let him escape!" Other customers jumped in, capturing the thief before handing him over to the authority. After that incident, everyone around that saw Julie's heroic act, they swarmed her store, complimenting her and asking to buy everything, and in no time, their whole store sold out. After closing, Julie and Rue sat down, exhausted. "I see, so we can sell stuff by doing things like that." Tired. Juliana seemed to be just fine, though. She was still energetic, saying how fun that was. Then Julie turned to Juliana and Rue, saying, "Good job, Lucifer and Juliana." She then handed out some tomatoes, saying, "Here's today's pay." Whoa, that shouldn't be everything thought, right? What do you mean, one tomato for the whole day's pay? But, well, Rue looked at it and her eyes lit up in excitement. They then took bites into the vegetables, saying how it tasted much better after working hard. Looking at the tomato, Julie asked herself, "Is this what everyday life is like?"
Maybe it's not so bad, the things I once desired. Things like this, an ordinary, peaceful, everyday life, are right in front of me now. Holding her hand up to the sky while recalling her life of war and battle in the past, she thought to herself, it's definitely better than before. Considering what I did in my past life, it might still be too soon to feel at home. Just then, someone called out to Julie. She turned around to see it was no other than Adelina, who with a stern face said she came to ask for her help. Julie was confused. She asked, "What the hell are you talking about, Adelina?" Adelina continued, "Do you happen to know about the Baldwin disease, Julie-chan?" Hearing this, Julie was shocked. Adelina then continued, saying that disease was starting to appear in the town. Hearing that, Julie was in disbelief. She thought to herself, I'm not buying it. There's just no way. That same illness is what earned me the name of the cruel emperor. Back to the past, Baldwin disease, as its name suggests, originated in the kingdom of Baldwin. The kingdom was helpless against that unknown disease spreading throughout the land. Most of the royal family and population perished, bringing the kingdom to the brink of collapse.
It was Julius Melville who raised an army there and annexed the kingdom. The goal was to purify the disease, but it could not be eradicated completely. After the integration, outbreaks of the disease occurred in several villages. Julius had to burn them all to the ground to minimize the outbreak without so much as changing his expression. And so, people began calling him the Cruel Emperor. Thinking about it, Julie thought, no wonder I was being proclaimed as being cruel and unjust. Though I had no choice, what I did was all I could do. I don't intend to deny it, but this lifetime is another matter entirely. Adelina continued, I want to borrow your power, Julie-chan. Is that so? Julie said. She looked at her with a glaring gaze. Are you telling me to slaughter every single person in the town? Adelina was confused. Don't say such alarming things. Of course we're going to come up with a cure for the disease. Julie heard this. She was surprised. A cure for the disease? She hurriedly grabbed onto Adelina, asking her, Is there a special ingredient for it? Yeah, of course there is. Why? Julie heard this. She stumbled down, disbelieved, but also relieved. Right, I see. It can be cured without killing a single person. A lot of time has passed since then. The medical field should be a lot more developed now. I don't know why it hadn't occurred to me until now. Perhaps I was more shaken than I realized. Adelina asked if Julie was okay, to which she said yes. She asked what she could do for help, to which Adelina assured her that there was only one thing missing for the cure, and that was a unicorn's horn. Julie heard this and understood how it wasn't a daily task for the normal adventurer. She asked how much would they need, to which Adelina said that only one was more than enough. Anything else would be provided by the Curtis Viscount family. A Viscount family? Julie asked. Then Adelina got close to her. She whispered, I shouldn't be the one to say this, but Viscount Curtis died because of the disease. I see, so that's why they're moving so quickly with this. I got it. The disease is so strong that even children die. That would explain the shopkeeper's ill wife. And Michelle also, who seemed ill earlier as well. The Baldwin disease is probably the cause of all of it. But this time, it's different from back then, when burning everything was the only option. Putting her hand to her chest, Julie said confidently, saying that she was but a low-level adventurer, she would certainly see that request through to completion. The next day, we see Julie talking about the new mission of gathering a unicorn's horn, saying today they were going to head to the Forest of Unicorns. Adelina said that they were going to use teleportation magic since the forest was a bit far away. Julie affirmed it, though she asked, Why is Lucifer here? Adelina apologized, saying Rue wouldn't listen when she told her to stay home. Julie was a little worried since this expedition wasn't an ordinary one and Rue might be in danger, and there was no way Adelina was also worried. She then exchanged eye contacts with Claude, saying that Rue would probably understand once she meets the unicorn. Adelina then asked if they were ready to go. She then proceeded with the teleportation spell. A big magic circle appeared above them, and in no time, Julie closed her eyes to then reopen it to find herself already in the forest. So this is the unicorn forest, Julie mused. Rue then suddenly hugged her, saying that she felt cold, to which Julie also noticed the temperature difference compared to the city. Adelina then explained, We're about 50 kilometers away from Curtis. This place borders the Viscounty of Curtis, and apparently we're in the Haugen Barony. Hearing this, Julie recognized the name. It was the name of the noble family Juliana was once promised a marriage to. This seems too perfect to be a coincidence, Julie mumbled. She then got ready to set off. I'll be off then. Claude insisted he wanted to go with her, but Julie just sighed and said, Do you really think you can keep up with me? You'd just get in the way. Hearing this somewhat ticked Claude and Adelina off, but Julie insisted that they should trust in her. Claude heard this, he hesitated for a little but decided to accept and wished Julie and Rue good luck. Once they head off, Juliana asked Julie what she meant by big sister qualification, to which Julie said that she would explain once they meet a unicorn. They started walking deep into the forest. Julie told Rue to watch her step and don't run around too much. She also noticed the thick mana in the forest, saying there were bound to be monsters. But Rue didn't seem to mind at all, even acted excitedly, to which Julie didn't say anything and just smiled at her. They continued down the forest. While doing so, Juliana popped out saying, "This forest, it's beautiful." Julie looked at her. She asked Juliana why she only comes out every once in a while, which caught her off guard. Julie continued, "If I were to hand this body over to you, you'd be able to move it with your own will."
But there are monsters around, right? If something happens, just switch back and let me handle it. It doesn't have to be this forest anyway. It'd probably be easier to practice in the city. Hearing this, Juliana rather hesitated. She said, "I'm still kind of scared to try it. I'm fine just staying behind you, big sis." "I see." Just then, Julie noticed rustling in the bush nearby. He said, "Juliana, you really do have good instincts." "Huh?" Juliana was confused. Turning to her, Julie said, "Even if we switched right now, we would have ended up switching back immediately." Just as she said so, from the tree nearby, a pack of small lizard monsters appeared. Rue excitedly asked if it was a festival, to which Julie played along. Then she told Rue to stay still, waiting for her to handle it. The monsters growled at her, then they charged toward her ready to attack. But in an instant, Julie enhanced her leg with fire magic and stomped on the ground, causing a wave of flame to burst out, pushing back the monsters. Julie then dashed forward. Pulling her knife, she sliced them off in a swift motion. Her face smiled, enjoying the battle. Julie then continued to cut down each monster, while Rue and Juliana cheered for her, saying she was so cool. Just then, a monster snuck up behind Rue. It lunged forward, ready to gouge her eyes out with its claw. But a knife flew straight at it, stabbing its head. It was Julie who threw the knife, and the monster died immediately in front of Rue's eyes. "Rue-chan, are you hurt?" Juliana asked, to which Rue answered, "Nope." Then Julie told her, "Rue, that was dangerous. You didn't even show the slightest sign of running away." "It's because Big Sis is so strong. I knew I was going to be okay." I can't tell if you're fearless or just completely carefree." Having said that, Julie thought to herself, but even with the crisis looming that close, to do nothing is just... She seemed oblivious to it. But Julie decided to save that thought for later, as he told everyone to get going. Back in the city, we can see the effect of the disease had already been visible, with people in the street walking around, looking tired and ill. Over at the orphanage, we can see Ars walking in a room, saying he brought some water, and on the bed, Michelle was lying, looking exhausted. Still, she tried her best to thank Ars. The situation seemed to be more dire than ever. Over at the Adventurers Guild, Adelina and Claude were gathering everyone, saying it was a request of the Lord and that all adventurers with free hands needed to get to work in finding the remaining materials. So far, most of the materials needed were secured. All that was left for them was the unicorn horn, and they were counting on Julie's group. Back in the forest, after a while of searching and exploring, Julie's group finally arrived at the destination. Oh? Whoa! Wow! The three of them were amazed by the sight in front of them. In the middle of a small pond, a unicorn was standing, its body coated in the dazzling light of the forest. As it looked at them, Julie smiled and said, "Now then, it's time to face the unicorn trial." Julie then began explaining the trial, saying, in order to obtain the horn, they must overcome 3 trials. But while she was doing so, Rue couldn't hold back her excitement from seeing a unicorn. She rushed forward to the unicorn. "It's really a unicorn!" Despite Juliana trying to call her back, Rue got close to the unicorn, standing in front of it. The unicorn looked at her, and in a moment, its eyes turned red. It began approaching Rue. Just then, Jule grabbed Rue's shirt and threw her back, separating her from the unicorn. Julie then turned to the unicorn, noting how the moment Rue approached it, its eyes turned from blue to red, and she seemed she knew something about it. Rue safely landed in a bush behind them, but she wasn't scared at all. In fact, she was excited and asked Julie to do that again, to which Julie sighed, saying she would do it some other time. Back to the unicorn, Julie walked up to it, and as she did so, she noticed a sense of magic circling her. Huh? This feeling? It's as if my mana core was being touched directly. This sensation is definitely a first. Turns out, this was the first trial from the unicorn. Don't fear the unicorn. Julie continued, "This is likely a test to gauge the strength of my mana core.
If someone with an average manicore were to experience this, they probably wouldn't be able to withstand it. After a moment, the unicorn nodded, signaling that she passed the first trial. Julie smiled and said, "So, did I pass? If not, then feel free to check me out as much as you want." The unicorn then got closer to her. It licked her face gently before proceeding with the second trial, to be a pure maiden, which she also passed without any problem. The unicorn began lowering its horn to Julie. She tried touching it, and in an instant, her consciousness were brought back to a memory, the memory that decided her resolve for wanting to get the horn. It was to be able to see the smile of those who were dear to her back in the city, the landlady, Michelle, everyone. And with this, the last trial were decided. It was to possess a noble heart. The unicorn sees right through her intentions with its horn. Who tries to take its horn with impure intentions would be sent to the afterlife with those legs. And Julie's motif, which was to help those she loved, passed the trial. The unicorn was satisfied and bowed down to Julie, signaling her permission for its horn, to which Julie smiled, "You have my thanks," and the mission ended successfully. After a while, they were back to their home while Julie and Claude were having dinner. Claude kept on saying, "It's delicious." Julie was rather uncomfortable. "How many more times are you going to say that?" "I'll say it as many times as it takes. I never imagined I'd get to taste Julie Sama's home cooking. I'm in heaven." Michelle also helped out, you know. "With me being the best role model there is, this much is the least I can do," Julie said. Claude heard this and he smiled gently. "It's a shame Michelle isn't here to enjoy the meal as well." "Yeah, how's it been since then?"
It's going smoothly. The free distribution of the special medicine has begun under the name of Viscount Curtis. We also made sure to inform everyone that excessive intake can be harmful. No one seems to be trying to monopolize it at the moment. Within the next 2 or 3 days, it should reach everyone who is currently bedridden. Julie responded. She then let out a long sigh, finally relaxed. "I hope we're able to save them all in time." Apparently, she still regretted the decisions she made back then, but this time she hoped what she did would pay off. Claude smiled and assured her, "So do I. It's all thanks to you, Julie-sama." But Julie refused. "Don't be ridiculous. It's also thanks to you adventurers who managed to gather the rest of the materials." Claude heard it. He then continued, saying that since he figured that Julie wouldn't want the attention, he had it look like Adelina was the one who fetched it, to which Julie was worried if Adelina was okay with it, but Claude didn't seem to understand what she meant and thought that Adelina would be okay with it, to which Julie just gave up and moved on to the next topic. "Now, let's get down to business," Julie said, her face serious. "Lucifer is part of the demon race." It's me, narrator here again. Sorry for interrupting, but I just want to make a clarification again. So, back from the first time Julie met Rue, she suspected that Rue was a demon, whose demon core hasn't awakened yet. But in the later chapters, when Julie and Claude went to the Adventurer Guild, she noted that the demon cores of adventurers there was weak, which led us to believe that demon core is just part of the human body, not exclusive to demon race. So we clarified that Rue wasn't suspected as a demon, but was just impressed by Julie for her potential. But in this chapter, we found out that Rue was in fact a demon, and Julie did suspect her for that. And the demon core from the Adventurers Guild that she referred to was just mana core or magic core. This was probably errors made by the translation. Sorry about that. Back to the story. Julie continued, "So it was as I suspected. While I was there, the unicorn's eyes, which despise the demon race, had turned crimson. Also, there's no doubt about it, both Michelle and Adelina have both fallen victim to Lucifer's hypnotization. The demon race, back from the previous life, Julius once fought against the demon king who ruled over them. When it came down to the final battle, its outcome still remains shrouded in mystery. But there's one thing Julie remembered perfectly. Those demons were skilled in magic that manipulated human minds. Truly the kind of power that lets you use people." Claude looked at Julie. He asked, "Julie-sama, what would you like to do?" Julie answered, "Thankfully, her charm isn't all that powerful. It can make someone who's already comfortable with her hesitant to refuse when she asks for something. It's probably fine to just leave her be for now." Claude hesitated. "Is that really okay?" To which Julie responded,
"This is just my hunch, but I might be better to keep her alive." "Better to keep alive?" Claude asked. But Julie decided to end the conversation there, saying more clues would eventually come out. She then got ready to go out. Claude asked where she was going, since she seemed to be going out a lot lately, but Julie just smiled. Putting her finger to her lip, she said, "That's a secret." The scene then transitioned to a high-class tavern, Golden Duck Pavilion. It seemed that in this place a child had appeared to bestow wisdom upon those in distress. And inside that tavern, the divine child asked, "Now then, who's gonna be the next little lamb?" I'm crying, bro. I thought they were introducing a new character. This shit just Julie, bro. The fuck's she doing there? "I'm up next," a voice called out, answering Julie. It was a young boy putting down several coins. She asked Julie to listen to his worries. Julie looked down. She then asked, "What kind of worries does an artisan have?" "Eh?" The young boy was shocked. How did she know about his profession? Julie then explained, "You can tell most things by looking at someone's hands." Ah, the boy was impressed. "Amazing. You really are the real deal." What does he mean by the real deal? Julie thought to herself. She began recalling how she ended up there. What started as a simple consultation when she was giving out advice to some other customers in the tavern turned into quite a big deal, and she ended up becoming popular as people kept coming to ask her for advice. This was what she was hiding from Claude, since she didn't want him to follow her. Though she thought to herself, this was only to kill time, and now teasing people is a hassle. So even though I deliberately jacked up the consultation fee, many people seem to have worries about their insecurities. Julie then began asking for the boy's age, to which he introduced himself, saying he was 15, and was working as an assistant at a weaponsmith. Hearing this, Julie was impressed, saying he was quite talented. The boy heard this, he was pleased, but then he started remembering his problem with his boss. "My boss gave me permission, so I've finally been able to forge my own daggers as of lately. But he's a real jerk, you know? He keeps making unreasonable demands, like making 5 of them in a single day. You know full well that if you're a blacksmith, it takes time to make something good. If I could just get another day or two, I can make something even better. The boss cares more about making money than making good stuff. He's totally wrong, right?" Hearing this, Julie said, "You're right, your boss is definitely wrong," but before the boy could continue, Julie interrupted him, saying she wouldn't trust a kid like him with that kind of job. The boy was confused, but Julie quickly grabbed his collar, warning him of his obsession someday would end up killing someone. What the hell are you talking about? All I do is forge weapons." "Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's still a weapon, either for protecting someone or for killing someone. Well, let's just leave it at that, but someday, just because you were 1 day late, those who needed the weapons might end up dead. That's just what war is like." The boy tried to argue back. "There's no way war would ever... No, I mean, even so, isn't it better to make the best weapon that I can make?" But he was met with a dear smile from Julie, and his face went red, but in an instant he was thrown over by Julie, landing his back on the ground. And before he could understand what just happened, Julie already put a dining knife to his throat, saying, "You don't need a fancy sword to take a life. If I can strip the enemy of their combat strength, that's sufficient enough." The boy was flabbergasted, but also embarrassed. He tried to leave, but Julie stopped him, calling him back. The boy hesitated. He asked if kicking someone when they were down her hobby, but Julie assured him. She then asked, since the boss acknowledged his skill, she wanted to have a look at his work. The boy hesitated, but Julie said that it was okay even if it wasn't his best work. Hearing this, the boy finally accepted and handed her a long knife that he'd made. Julie then began swinging it around, testing it. She noted that the center of gravity was off and the blade lacked both sharpness and strength, but for now, it was okay. She then handed the boy the money that he'd used to pay for consultant fees before, basically not charging him any. She said that it was an investment and that once he finally made something that he could be proud of, he should bring it to her. The boy heard this. He felt a warmth sensation in his heart. He then steeled his resolve, promised that one day he would bring her a weapon that she could be satisfied with, then left before the cheering of people around them. Looking at the knife, Julie said, "For now, this is just a dull knife, but will it end up becoming a sword crafted by a master in the future? I'm looking forward to it." Later that day, Julie went to visit Michelle, bringing her some apples. Michelle smiled and thanked her, but Julie said that she should thank the landlady once she recovered. The shopkeeper's wife had also gotten better and was able to manage the stall again. Aris sat beside them, peeling apples. He scoffed at Michelle, telling her to worry about herself first. Julie turned to him and offered to help peeling apples. She said as he brought out the dagger from earlier, which made Aris uncomfortable. He asked why she was carrying a dagger around, saying that it was dangerous. But Julie was smug, saying it was because she was an adventurer after all, to which Aris scoffed, saying she was just a newbie F rank, don't go around acting high and mighty. Hearing this, Julie said that though she'd like to show him her true strength, they shouldn't fight there. Instead, she proposed an apple peeling contest. Hearing this, Aris was confident. You asked for it. And would you look at that? He was utterly defeated. Julie was peeling apples with a speed that Aris was no match for. She smirked, saying the outcome was decided from the start, since she had been learning a lot of cooking skills from Michelle. But the battle wasn't done until the food was eaten by the person you cooked for. Hearing this, Aris was annoyed, but then both of them turned to Michelle, asking her which one she was going to eat first. Michelle smiled brightly. She chose Aris's plate, thanking him for always working hard. Hearing this, Aris was both surprised and happy. Julie looked at them. She smiled and asked, "You two seem to get along really well." Hearing this, Michelle said brightly, "We did grow up together after all. He's like a brother to me." Little brother? Aris was shocked. Poor guy got friend-zoned. Looks like he's still got a long way to go. Just then, Adelina and Rue came in. They asked if Michelle had felt better, to which she responded positively. Julie asked if Adelina came to visit as well, but she said that there was actually something else she came for. This time, she came to have some business with Aris. Aris heard this. He was confused. Adelina then continued, "You need to come visit the Viscount's residence for a bit." This announcement shocked everyone. The Viscount's residence? Julie also heard this. She let out a curious smile, intrigued by what was going to happen. Hearing Adelina's words, Ars was confused. Huh? Me? Though Adelina had assured him that it would be brief and nothing bad, Ars was still restless. Adelina then explained, "Well, I got invited to the Viscount residence over the whole special medicine thing. I didn't mind as long as I was being thanked, but for some reason, I was asked to act as an intermediary for you." Ars was surprised. He asked why they would do that, but Adelina answered that she didn't know either. But she assured him that nothing bad would happen. Julie, watching the both of them, she suspected that there was something happening behind the scenes, so she decided to go with them. Hearing this, Ars was surprised. He questioned why she would do that, but Adelina seemed fine with it. In fact, she would appreciate it if Julie had come along. Looking at Ars's confused face, Julie smirked, teasing him, asking if he was so scared he needed her to hold his hand on the way, to which Ars was pissed off. Just then, Rue jumped in, saying that she wanted to come along. And unlike with Julie, both Adelina and Ars did not hesitate one bit and immediately accepted her request. This was probably due to her charming spell. But Julie wasn't affected by it, so she asked Rue to stay home, saying that she could have all those apples if she stayed and looked after Michelle, to which Rue was excited and accepted right away. Looking at Rue, Julie sighed. As I thought, you're using charm, aren't you? They then set off to visit the Viscount family. After they had arrived, the three of them sat in the mansion's living room. While waiting for the Viscount family, Ars was restless and worried, unlike Julie, who was calm and composed. Just then, a young man walked in. He introduced himself as Laurent, the acting steward of the Curtis Viscount family. While doing so, he looked at the guests and suddenly recognized Juliana. Huh? Lady Juliana? Hearing this, Julie asked if Juliana knew this Viscount household, to which Juliana responded positively, saying that their family had business with each other, and she personally had met the Viscount a few times, saying that he was a kind man. Julie thought about it. She reasoned that since it would be troublesome if word got back to their father that Juliana was still alive, she decided to refuse, saying, "My name is Yuri. I'm an adventurer that's accompanying ours. I don't know who you've mistaken me for, but it seems like there's clearly some misunderstanding here." Hearing this, Laurent was confused, but he didn't dare to argue back, and he didn't think he should, so he decided to go along with her claims. Ars then asked what business they wanted with him, and this is where Laurent revealed a shocking news that hadn't been made public yet, that due to the recent plague, all of the Viscount family, including the lord, his wife, and their children, had all passed away. Damn, that's crazy. Hearing this, Ars was shocked, while Julie asked what it had to do with them. Laurent then continued, "Well, at this rate, the family would face the threat of collapse. However, after a thorough investigation, we have discovered that the Lord had another son. And that would be you, Ars. The one to succeed the Lord after his passing would be you, young Master Ars." Damn, that's crazier. Ars couldn't believe in his eyes. Me? I'm the son of the Viscount? Julie asked, "There must be a reason why you claim he's the son of the Viscount, right?" "Of course there is," Laurent answered. "While going through the late Lord's belongings, a journal was discovered, and inside of it, he stated some things." At this point, Julie immediately caught up to the story. So to put it simply, the Viscount got involved with a maid, and fearing his wife's wrath, he drove both her and the child from the household. Her words were so bold, yet so true. Laurent couldn't do anything but awkwardly stayed silent. Adelina said that Julie didn't have to be so blunt with it. Though she thought that Julie was right, it still made the Viscount look like a horrible person. As a person who once grew up in the orphanage that the Viscount supported, Adelina wanted to believe he was a good lord. But a good lord didn't have to be a good father or husband, and for Julie, it was a typical scenario. Julie then looked at Ars, who was still dazed. She asked what's wrong, to which Ars finally noticed them. He said that he just couldn't believe that he was really the Viscount's son. Laurent then went ahead to confirm this statement, saying that the reason they summoned Ars here was to determine whether he was truly the heir of the family. They then were presented with a magical tool. Julie asked what it was, to which Laurent said the tool was called Blood Seal. It was a magical artifact used to verify one's lineage, and it was usually used by noble households. Hearing this, Julie mused, "Wow, what a convenient time we live in." First, they would put a drop of the late Lord's blood, then they would apply Ars' blood to it. A maid then brought Ars a needle, one that he would use to extract his blood. Ars looked at the needle. He was overwhelmed with fear. Just then, Julie called out to him. Holding up her dagger, she joked, "If you're so scared of needles, want to try using this one instead?" Ars was dazed and taken aback by the joke, but then he calmed down and smiled. "You want me to cut my finger off or something?" Having calmed down, Ars poked into his finger with the needle, and a drop of blood dripped out, falling onto a plate. Laurent then applied other ingredients to it, and in an instant, a small explosion bursted, leaving a small crystal. Laurent then began examining the crystal, and in no time he concluded, "This confirms it without a doubt. Lord Ars is the legitimate son of the late head of the household. By blood and standing, he is the rightful heir of the Curtis Viscount family." "Me? A noble?" Ars was taken aback. "Oh, Ars is a Viscount now," Julie mused. "This is starting to get more interesting." But Ars quickly scoffed. "Me being a Viscount? There's no way I can do that. I've lived my whole life as an orphan, you know." But Julie stared at him. "Even so, this is something that you have to do." "But why do I have to take on that role? It doesn't have to be me, you know." "Ars, who was it that supported the orphanage you live in?" It was Viscount Curtis." "That's right. It's a good place. The support it receives is more than sufficient. It receives more than other orphanages. If someone else were to inherit the Viscounty, what do you think would happen to that support? In the worst-case scenario, it could be shut down as an unprofitable burden." What? Ars was overwhelmed with the argument, but Julie didn't leave him no time. She rushed in at him, staring at him with a manic smile. "Remember this, Ars. Money, power, and status. In the end, they are the only strength you'll ever need." Her face then switched to a more gentle smile. "If there is something you wish to protect, then this power will surely be of use to you." Hearing this, Ars recalled the familiar scene of his daily lives, living with those he truly loved, the other kids, his friends, and Michelle. He remembered her voice calling out to him, a warm, dear voice that he swore to protect. Clenching his fist, he said, "I'll do it. I will inherit the title and become a Viscount." Julie heard this. She smiled and slapped Ars in the back, hurting him. She then said, "Then we'd better deal with the problem quickly." "Huh? Problem?" Ars was confused. Julie then continued, "Yep, if things stay as they are, you'll be killed." "Huh?" "The one who spread this plague did so with the intent to kill the entire Viscount family. It's time to catch the mastermind behind it." Julie then began explaining her suspicions, asking Ars if he really thought the plague happened naturally, when in fact someone deliberately caused it with the intent to hurt others. And while Ars was still confused, Julie turned to Laurent, asking if the full report of the plague had come in yet, but Laurent answered that they were still being compiled. Just then, another person walked in. It was none other than Claude. It turned out, Claude was the one Laurent asked to investigate the situation. "Perfect timing, Claude," Julie said. "Give me your report." They then began going over the report, including the detailed symptoms and the condition of the infected. The dead toll was 54. Most were townsfolk who were already in poor health. For this illness, the damage this time could be considered minimal. However, the real issue was the members of the Viscount's household had all passed away. In addition, several servants were also affected, including the actual steward, which was why Laurent was acting as the interim steward for them. At this point, Julie pointed out how unnatural it was. Usually, plague breakouts started in places like the slums, places with poor sanitary conditions. Ars finally caught on to it. This time, the plague started from the Viscount's household. There was no way the estate was in worse condition than the slums, which means this must be a scheme targeting the Viscount's household. Someone brought the disease into the Viscount's residence. Julie directed her gaze to everyone, saying, "Yeah, someone did." She then walked toward them, and in an instant her eyes locked onto Laurent. She immediately tripped him down, then put her dagger near his throat. "Ah? What?" Laurent was shocked, panting for breath. Julie stared at him. Then she smiled and said, "It's not Laurent." "Bro, are we serious?" "What do you mean?" Ars asked. Julie then began explaining. If he were the culprit, the moment I moved, he would have gone on guard, and if a dagger were pointed at him, he would either try to defend himself or resist. But up until the very moment the dagger was aimed at him, he never once imagined he was being treated as the culprit, unless he were an extraordinary fool or absurdly confident, which means Laurent is innocent. I apologize for testing like that. Laurent was scared shitless. He said, "It's fine. Lady Julie's actions were only natural, though I feel like my lifespan was shortened. If I am to serve as steward of the Viscount's house, I cannot be shaken by something like that." He then swore that he would try to improve, though Adelina thought that it wasn't something effort alone could fix. Back to the problem at hand, Julie noted that if it wasn't Laurent, then it could be someone else capable of doing so, or there might be several. However, one thing's for sure, there was a rat in the house. Adelina and Claude then offered to be the one to do the searching for the suspect, but Julie refused, saying that as high-rank adventurers, their presence would cause wariness, making it hard to track the culprit down. Hearing this, they asked how they should do it then, and at this moment, Julie let out a gentle, captivating smile, which caught everyone off guard. "Huh?" But before they could understand what she just did, Julie had already jumped in the air, leaping at Laurent, preparing to strike him down. But narrowly, the attack was stopped. It was none other than Adelina who did it, as she managed to react just in time. With this, Julie said, "A child's smile is the perfect way to make someone drop their guard, don't you think?" Adelina had no choice but to admit it. "You got me. I completely let my guard down." Julie then complimented Adelina for her quick-witted, but Adelina scoffed, saying she only managed to intervene because Julie had already intended to pull the strike back at the last second. But Julie assured her, saying that it was because Adeline realized that fact that she was complimenting her, while Ars trying to call for Laurent, who was still stunned from fear. Laurent finally woke up from fear. He apologized for his shortcomings, but Ars assured her that it was all Julie's fault. He shouted at Julie, telling her to stop picking up on Laurent, but Julie said that his reaction was so good she just had to do it, though she looked at both of them and smiled. A lord who can get angry on behalf of his subordinate, perhaps you truly have the makings of one. She then grabbed Ars' shoulder. Well then, first comes intensive studying, Ars. Studying? Of course, right, Laurent? Yes, Laurent responded with a bright smile. Lord Ars will need the education and proper conduct of a viscount, as well as the knowledge required of a territorial lord. We will have you learn all of it. Ars was terrified. I'm not really good at studying. Please rest assured, Laurent said. I, Laurent, will take full responsibility and raise Lord Ars into a fully fledged lord. Julie then said that it would be best to announce the Viscount's dead after the plague situation fully settled down, and that would be Ars' formal debut. Hearing this, Ars hesitated, but he had no choice but to accept. Julie then explained her plan, for then Ars would be confined in his room with Claude as his guard, since after all his life was being targeted. The culprit was someone who would benefit from the Viscount's death, though their plans didn't go as expected since Ars was still alive. If the Viscount's bloodline were to end, another noble house would take control of the land. Those qualified would be relatives of the Viscount's family or those who governed territories bordering the Curtis domain. Julie then asked Ars what they would need to prepare to spread a plague. Ars answered that it was obviously the disease, but it wasn't the answer Julie was looking for. What else? She asked. They thought for a while before Julie had to remind them that they already knew the answer. That was when Adelina remembered the unicorn horn and seemed to catch on to the answer. Ars, on the other hand, was still clueless. He tried to ask for the real answer, but Julie wouldn't give it to him, telling him that as a lord he needed to figure it out himself, and that would be his homework. Julie then turned to Claude. She asked him, "Oh, right, Claude, the clothes you prepared for me. You still have them, yes?" "Of course." "Then is there a maid outfit among them?" "Huh?" Claude was surprised. The day later, at Julie's mansion, we saw her putting up the clothes that she asked Claude to prepare for her. It was a maid uniform. Putting the clothes on, she mused, I look pretty good. Juliana looked at her. She couldn't believe how cute Julie made her body look. Wow, shiny golden hair, ruby-colored eyes. Is this really me? All of this was a disguise Julie planned for the mission. With this, no one should recognize me, right? Yeah, I look like a whole new person. Just then, another maid walked in and greeted Julie good morning, referring to her as Rihanna-chan. It seemed this new persona was what Julie was going to use to investigate the mansion while working there as a maid. Good morning. Julie put on a bright smile, greeting the house servants. One of the maids asked her to do the bed making, to which she happily agreed. It seemed the servants liked her a lot. They said it was so Lord Ars could adjust more easily. When I heard they were making a kid into a maid from the orphanage, I wondered how that would turn out. Well, look at that. She's kind-hearted and hard-working, and above all, she's cute. Juliana looked at them. She was impressed at how quickly Julie fit in, to which she answered confidently, saying there were tricks to it. Just then, they heard someone talking from the corner and immediately tried to listen in on them. It was two male servants who were discussing if Ars could really serve as a lord, since he was from an orphanage after all. But the other guy brought up that from morning till night, Ars stayed in his room studying, and the maid who brought his meals said Mr. Laurent was like a demon instructor to him. Hearing this, the other male servant mused, saying that he was quite impressive for enduring that. Hearing their conversation, Julie was relieved. Ars was working hard as well. Then she focused on her part, going through the list of people that Laurent sent her. So far, they were all clean. Only a few remained. Just then, someone called out to Julie. She turned around to see a man who referred to her as her maid persona, asking for some of her time. That man was Esk, a merchant from the Tokwell Trading Company. Julie then smiled and asked what it was he wanted with her, to which Esk said that he thought Ars might be struggling in this unfamiliar environment. That was why he wanted to bring him a little treat. And since he thought that Julie was from the same orphanage, he wanted to know Ars's favorite food. Hearing this, Julie acted impressed at his consideration, but she barely hid her true smirk. Gotcha. Then she continued, That's wonderful. Lord Ars will surely be delighted. Really? I hope so. If I remember correctly, Lord Ars's favorite is... And just like that, later that day, Julie walked in on Ars while he was studying, saying that it was time for afternoon tea. While she was preparing the snack, both Laurent, Ars, and Claude were restless at her weird acting. Ars asked, Julie, right? But Julie just smiled. It's Rihanna, young master.
Ars was confused, but he quickly noticed the apple pie she brought in. That's apple pie? His eyes lit up. Julie then said, Yes, it's an apple pie sent by Lady Michelle. Ars was stoked. For him, noble food was delicious, but it got tiring, and he really wanted something like this. But just as he reached for the pie, Julie pulled it back from him, leaving him confused. She then said, If you eat it, you'll die. Huh? Ars was confused. Julie then continued, This apple pie is poison. I know who the culprit is. The rat is a man named Esk. Hearing this, Laurent recognized the name. Claude asked if they should capture Esk right away, to which Julie refused. She told them not to let any maids into the room for the time being, and from now on, if they made the enemies think that Ars died from poison, the enemies would make their moves soon. Later that day, Adeline came to visit them, only to find Julie, who was supposed to be a maid, sitting comfortably, leg crossed, eating pie on the couch that only Ars, the lord of the house, was supposed to sit. Adelina-san, I'm not Julie. I'm Rihanna, Lord Ars's personal maid, Julie laughed, to which Adelina scoffed. In what world is there a maid stuffing her face with apple pie next to the Lord? Right here, Julie said. He then handed Adelina some pie. It's Michelle's special recipe. I got it directly from her, so it's not poisoned. Want some too? Adelina heard this, she scoffed at them, but then decided to have some pie also. But she quickly remembered her true purpose of visiting, saying there was big trouble. Turns out it was an incident where beastmen have surrounded the Talkwell Company president's mansion. Julie heard this and recognized that it was Esk's mansion. She got up and headed to Ars's closet, taking out her backup clothes. Adeline looked at her. She couldn't believe her lack of etiquette. So why are your clothes in the Lord's closet? She asked, turning to Ars. She told him to do something about her, but Ars had already given up. Desperate, she screamed at Julie. Hey, what are you doing? Well, I can't go out wearing a maid uniform. That's not the point. Don't worry, no one saw, Julie said, pointed to Claude, Ars, and Laurent. They all pretended like they didn't see anything, totally giving up. After getting done changing, Julie told Laurent that they would deal with the matter that day, to which Laurent nodded. Julie then told Claude to escort Ars and the others to the scene, and she would head there first. Before leaving, she walked up to Ars, whispering in his ears, Brace yourself. Having said that, Julie set off, despite Adelina still trying to call her back. Ars, looking at her back leaving, he took a deep breath and steeled his resolve.